Who are you?
Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
I'm good. Who are you?
Who am I? My name is Hani Ahmed Zewail. I am the son of Dr. Ahmed Hassan Zewail, the founder of Zewail City. I'm his youngest son. So there's Nabil who's older than me, but I'm his youngest son.
How would you define yourself?
How would I define myself? I would define myself as a man of God who is passionate about knowledge. I think that knowledge is the key to opening the doors of light and to move us away from ignorance. And insofar as God is that light, we are approaching the same problem in a unique and profound way. So if I were to define myself, I would say I'm a man of God who loves and has passion for knowledge.
How did you reach that conclusion?
I think what knowledge does, وخصوصا علم الفلسفة، يفتح الأبواب العلم عشان نحقق ونلاقي الحقيقة من طريقة العلم. In my investigations of the major philosophers زي أرسطو ونيوتن وأينشتاين والكندي، يعني أنا تخصصوا أكثر في الكندي، أخذت الماجستير بتاعي في الموضوع ده. بس all of them I feel are saying the same thing. كلهم بيدوروا على الحقيقة. I think that this truth is something to be found and is a reflection of the reality of God. So this is how I think I reached this conclusion.
Very radical switch in that context. Why did you choose Oud?
العود. عود is the scientist's instrument. إذا بتعرف التاريخ بتاع الفلاسفة القدماء زي الكندي اللي حكيناه، كانوا يحسبوا حركة الكواكب والأفلاك على العود. فالتنيني والباقية كل الرياضيات ديت كان يعملوها على العود. وفارابي كم الموضوع كتب كتاب الموسيقى الكبير هل قده كله قياس الوتر وفات فأنا يعني كواحد حاسس حالي فيلسوف قلت ما هل هي الآلة الموسيقية اللي تعطيني الصورة الفيلسوف وهذا العود. فلذلك يعني اعتمدت إنه أدرس عود.
بس ليه الفلسفة أصلا؟
ليه الفلسفة أصلا؟ حسيت الفلاسفة بشكل عام they are very interested في ال basic problems. الماهية بتاع الزمن، الماهية بتاع الضوء. And this has always been a very attractive idea to me as a scholar. More than applied technologies, my personal يعني my passion شغفي إنساني إنه أدور على the basic problems, the basic answers. I felt philosophers, especially ناس زي أرسطو, very much were interested in looking at the fundamental problems, المبادئ الأصولية. This is what attracted me to philosophy because it offered a portrait of life, صورة الحياة, in a way that was rigorous, sophisticated, and dealt with the basic problems.
What's a question or a philosophical question that you felt resonated with you the most?
سؤال جميل. I think for me, I'm trying to follow my father's footsteps a little bit here by asking questions of the nature of time. طبيعة الزمن، الماهية، الذات بتاع الزمن، الجوهر بتاع الزمن. We have a lot of ways of measuring time. نقيس الزمن، المدة، حركات الكواكب, even from the very small, ultra fast dynamics, time scales. It's a way of measuring time. But this does not necessarily give us the answer of what is time? أو even if time exists إذا عنده وجود ولا لأ. يعني this even measuring time doesn't answer the question if time really exists. فالفلاسفة القدماء مثاليًا زي أرسطو وزي أوغسطين يقولوا يعني the past does it exist? They'll say no. The future does it exist? No. And the present does it exist? Barely. How do we live in something so ubiquitously and we don't even know if it exists or not? فthis يعني فتحت الضوء عندي. So what a question, what a profound question to think about. This is what يعني inspired me to move into this philosophical problem.
Mhm. That's okay. Why approach it from a literary perspective rather than a physical one?
Well, أنا باحس إنه philosophy is kind of it uses both. يعني because I read Aristotle's physics يعني. هو it is literary, you're right. مش يعني حاجة بنقعد it's not using contemporary equations to answer the problem. So it is using literature, but باحس إنه it's the philosophy of science. فيعني it's a older understanding of the nature of science. So what gives us certainty, what gives us understanding. But I think the reason I did it this way كمان is عشان uh, it appealed to me. It appealed to me to approach the problem this way.
Um, have you ever been in a band before?
إيه عزفت as part of my master's degree عزفت مع فرقة في two عزفت في فرقة في UCSB الجامعة اللي رحت عملت ماجستير هناك مع واحد اسمه دكتور سكوت ماركس بيعمل فرقة موسيقية العربية ميدل ايست فعزفت معاه كم سنة ورحت very recently I did one with عندهم group in Los Angeles اسمه الليالي زمان بيجيبوا ناس كبار عشان يغنوا وبيعزفوا معه عملت معهم عزف مع واحدة تونسية اسمها هلا ملكي إذا سامع فيها فيعني بعزف شوية عود ورا يعني دائما في واحد الأكبر اللي بيعرف الموضوع أكثر مني بس أنا طبعا بحب أعزف it's لغة الروح الموسيقى لغة الروح فبحس يعني إذا الجاذبية الحياة مأثرة علي كثير وعلى جسمي وما عم بقدر أركز شوية موسيقى بتفتح الموضوع الروح نهائي.
On that note, what's your favorite musical artist?
My favorite musical artist فطبعا الوالد الله يرحمه كان يحب كوكب الشرق أم كلثوم الفريدة الوحيدة المصرية العظيمة وأنا طبعًا كنت باحبها كمان، ما فيني أقول لأ، يعني أنا مصري كمان ما بدي إياكم تاخدوا الجنسية منّي، فلأ باحبها طبعًا أم كلثوم كتير، بس كمان في نفس الوقت باحب كتير الPrince السوري اللي إجا على مصر وانتشر في عزفه العظيم فريد الأطرش، آه، ففريد باحسّه يعني بيقاربني في قصة الحياة. ويعني ما فيش حد عمل كمية الشغل اللي فريد الأطرش عمله، تمثّل في 31 فيلم، عزف بيانو، كتب لحّن لأخته أسمهان يعني مشهورة، كمان لحّن كل أغانيه هو، وغنّى وفوق منّا كان ملك العود، يعني مش بس عازف عود، كل الناس اللي إجا بعده كانوا يقربوا يمثّلوا على يكونوا على مستوى لفريد الأطرش، باحبّه كتير، بالاقيه إنسان يعني مُبدع وشطّوري في الموضوع الموسيقي.
وفي نفس النوت who's your favorite book author or philosopher أو يعني anything along the line.
philosopher أوكي، أوف! أنا ما باقرا fiction كتير، فمنيح إنه سألتني في الphilosopher. آمم، فمن القُدما باقول لك أنا هلّأ بين my most profound يعني triangle is الكندي أرسطاطل وآيزاك نيوتن. هدول التراينجل بتاع الموضوع الأولد، يعني القديم، المفكرين القديم قدماء. and the new في واحد فيلسوف اسمه ويليام لين كريغ، وهذا كتب في الدكتوراه بتاعه حاجة اسمه The كلام Cosmological Argument. حاجة يعني عظيم، عظيم الموضوع. ليه؟ هذا واحد يعني مسيحي بيروح بيستخدم الارجيومنتس اللي عملوها المسلمين الكندي والغزالي عشان يلاحظ انه في ابتداء للكون. And then he uses modern mathematics, say Gregory Cantor and infinite sets. وبيدخل الموضوع ده عشان to prove إنه why there is philosophically there is an idea of causality and a beginning ابتداء للكون. وكمان يعني عنده other books where he mentions Newton or he mentions Einstein or he mentions كل. فهو is a philosopher of science, but he uses Muslim arguments from وقت الكندي from the 9th century to demonstrate this point. طبعا as واحد who's in this world here or enjoys this world very deeply, his books very much appealed to me. Very tough books, يعني they're not ما لهم سهلين أبدا, but they're very enriching.
Teaching that you felt was painful. ولا إيه من أقول؟
You said, what is the teaching that you didn't like?
Oh yeah. What's a teaching that you initially did not like but can't refuse that it has helped shape your life?
I think the most profound wisdom, hikmah, that I've learned so far is that the profound experiences that will change your life عادة مولودين from tragedy. It is the most painful experiences in your life that give you the opportunity to change into the person and that you want to become. It's simple example, yeah, I mean, it's very simple, basic example, but the idea is that pain is not always حاجة to be avoided because it can help you along the ways. مثالي and very basic example is exercise. And exercise is painful, but in the long run, it will help you develop a virtue, فضائل, of health, which is an excellence of your body. But in a more profound sense, those traumatic experiences that you think, or tragedies of your life that you think you've been destroyed through them, it gives you a chance to resculpt yourself, to reshape yourself into the person that you want to be in the future. فلا تحسب that the tragedies that are in front of you and things that happen to you are the end, or that they will, they may help you become better or more beautiful. إحسان. The word إحسان means better, but it also means more beautified in character. تحسين الخلق. These are the opportunities for تحسين الخلق for you as an individual.
No, what's a turning point in your life?
A turning point in my own life. I think for me, there have been a few, but I think even now, نحكي هلا, coming to Egypt has been a turning point in my own life, because أنا بحس إنه المصريين متقدمين جدا من طريقة الأدب والأديب وتربية النفس ورياضة النفس، وبيأمنوا في هالموضوع طريقة عميقة جدا. إنه that this is something to achieve, this kind of virtue of the self. فدي and the whole society is committed to this. زي الفارابي قال المدينة الفاضلة. but there's a commitment to this idea, to make yourself a right, upstanding person and do what that takes. I think this for me has helped and is helping to shape my character in a great way. فالحمد لله يعني نقول الحمد لله. I think Egypt has been for me a turning point. Now,
What makes you feel like yourself?
I think we are most ourselves when we love ourselves. And what do I mean by love ourselves? يعني Aristotle يفرق بين real goods يعني الحاجات الحقيقية اللي هتأثر عليك and apparent goods الظاهر. When you say love yourself, it is not, I don't mean love yourself in the selfish way. I want this, and I want, this is not real love yourself. Real love yourself is sometimes to do the things that are very difficult in your life. Prayer, exercise, study. But those things that will give zakat, كن حافظ على نفسك, all of these fundamental values, which in the long run will shape your character and be a kind of form of real self-love. Because if you really love yourself, you will do the things that are best for you in the most biggest sense. يعني في أكبر معنى. So I would say that would be, it's a kind of self-love. الحب للحق وحب للنفس اللي مرتفع ارتفاعا. That's what I would say is that, a profound conclusion.
What's a modern philosophy that you might be interested in, but you've never really read into?
Good question والله. أعطيني ثانية بس أفكر في الموضوع. Because you're right, I tend to focus on ancient philosophy because I felt يعني they lived a lifestyle that's just very يعني virtue. They always were seeking virtue.
Yeah.
And I think the modern world, and this is really what I'm saying about this society, المصريين. This belief in virtue is a real part of Egyptian society, like it was with the ancients. But I think that now in modern theories of ethics and akhlaq, it's been out of fashion, out of vogue في الغرب to talk about virtue, to virtue theory. So I think there is a bit of a loss there of the importance of that as a study. But Cynthia, you're saying, what kind of modern philosophy would you be into? في a philosophy I do read sometimes, but I haven't deep dive into it. It's called existentialism. وجدانية. في واحد مصري اسمه عبد الرحمن البدوي، فيلسوف مصري ماذا يعني عم يكتب في القرن العشرين، وشغله الكمية والكيفية بتاع الشغل بتاع الإنسان ده عظيم جدا. عمل he republished a lot of ancient work على for the 20th century زي ثيولوجيا أرسطو اللي مكتوب by Plotinus وكندي اشتغل عليه. كل كتب تبع أرسطو, he did the encyclopedias of philosophy يعني حاجات. And his dissertation اسمه الزمن والوجود. الزمن والوجود. فقلنا what is the philosophical problem you're interested in؟ قلت لك الزمن. فهو كتب الدكتوراه بتاعه اسمه الزمن والوجود. And he is one of the first people to try to come up with a new philosophy that's based in Islamic principles and ideas. فيعني profound thinker. هو الموضوع الوجدانية بس اللي I'm thinking about now is يعني you as a students of science, تحسبوا الكوزموس and the study of science حاجة في الطبيعة. The philosophers of وجدانية, they make الروح والنفس متصلة في وسط الطبيعة. فعندهم approach مختلف شوية. Probably not, we're not going to be able to get too much into this now, but this idea so it's a different approach. So I'm still reading about it and trying to figure out exactly what they're saying. But this is something I'm very excited to investigate more.
Are you a fan of movies? or films?
I do. I like some films. I like some films. Yes, yes.
What's like
I like two kinds of. It's funny because people say you always like the movie where there's the genius who goes and does this kind of thing. فبحب أفلام زي Beautiful Mind إذا شايفه بتاع راسل كرو. بحب الموفي بتاع هذا الإنديان اللي بيروح على كامبريدج بيعمل mathematics يعمل ده.
مش وين بيجن؟ لا مش تي رامانوجن تقريبا.
باي رامانوجن. حبيت ده بتاع دافنشي كود. بحبيت ده Angels and Demons. حسيته يعني أنا صار شغلي زيه. نمبر 3 هون لا يكون نركض هون كده يعني. So it's mix of science and religion. واو واو واو. بس طبعا in this context تبع الكاثوليك تشيرش طبعا معروف انه جاليليو كان محبوس في الموضوع العلمية بتاعه. بس الحمد لله يعني for many periods of our own history science was encouraged by religion. يعني أنا بلاقي إنه Islamic countries especially there was always an emphasis on scientific for the first part of that history. بس عشان أفلام I like these mystery ones that have science and knowledge and adventure and stuff like this يعني thrillers really.
That's good. Uh, do you have a specific source of inspiration? Something that drives you?
Something that drives
Or a muse?
a muse. Good question. Good question. A constant source of inspiration.
Doesn't have to be constant, but yeah, something that you tend to go back to.
وطبعا I always tend to go back to Quran as a source of inspiration because it's just a book that I have with me in the house. So this is يعني when I'm feeling like I don't understand the world, I try to يعني have a personal connection with God and ask for answers and open the book and see what appears to me to be the answer to these questions. Um, I always keep a copy of my father's book around, Voyage Through Time. So I'll bring him to work بحطه جنبي كده شوف زي عندكم هون أنا ما عنديش ده عندي في البيت فبجيب كتابه بحطها جنبي as an inspiration for science. And that science and religion go hand in hand, and that true science is the discovery of the very fundamental reality, these philosophical reality. نقول على حقيقتها. And then doing يعني مش it's not always حاجة profound but basic things يعني نقول exercise which is good for the soul. Hour of exercise goes a long way. Eating healthy. Um, يعني basic things everyone knows, but we forget from time to time. And I forget too, يعني. Sometimes I get caught up in other things and my diet gets not good. I stop going to the gym as much and everything like this. But بحس إنه these basic things make a significant difference for keeping your brain active and healthy and going out with friends from time to time. This is also important. Music and music طبعا. News and music are طبعا very interrelated. I feel like إذا مسكت الجيتار ولا العود I can just sit there for 3-4 hours practicing a piece and totally be so focused on it that whatever I was struggling with mentally before بيفتح شوي. My intuition تطلع intelligence. It gets me closer to wisdom because I think wisdom نحن يعني even أرسطو عشان أكمل لك الموضوع إنه أرسطو بيفرق بين scientific knowledge and wisdom. So scientific knowledge is the study that you guys are engaged in, day and night. Is the study of these unchanging things that we find in nature, this stable knowledge, whether that's in science, in space, or in quantum, or so on and so on. And then there's wisdom, which is the combination of scientific knowledge and he calls it intuitive intelligence. How the intuitive intelligence is the intelligence of إنه أقيس the distance with my ears as I slide my finger on roots. It's not a rational kind of knowledge that measures things mathematically. تضرب 3 over 2 times 3 over 2 times 9 over 8. That's formal kind of scientific knowledge. But there's an intuitive knowledge that we get from our محسوسيات, senses بتاعنا, our eyes, our ears, that we can't really, this is what a philosopher like Kant may say is something, it's an aesthetic experience. It's intuitive. Something that we measure with our ears is sweet sounds of melody that we hear. يعني بيقولوا ألبرت أينشتاين مثاليا would never go without Linda. Linda اللي الفيولين بتاعه اسمها ليندا. عشان تفتح له الموضوع to move from scientific knowledge to wisdom. Something so profound as E equal mc squared, and general relativity and special theory of relativity is not just science. It's something beyond scientific knowledge. And this is why it resonated with the whole world so profoundly, because it's a kind of wisdom. He tapped into the simplicity of the basic reality, fundamental realities of the world that we live in. And I hope يعني that is something of what you're asking me.
What's a simple experience that you can't put into words?
Music, I think, is a simple experience. The beauty of music, Well, you try. I mean, this is the whole يعني the science of music, musicology. The science يعني هو science is in Greek comes from the word logos. Logos means science. It's the study of the being of something. So and هلا صار في الإنجليزي ology, نقول ology, but musicology or ethnomusicology, هدول is the logos of music, the science of music. But so the scientists about the PhDs in music, they're trying to describe this experience. Kant was trying to describe this experience, music. بس في حاجة about it, the way it affects your heart, the way it affects your mind, the way it escapes our ability to put it into word. Poetry can sometimes too. And one line of poetry, you can be having a bad day and you read one line of poetry and somehow you feel comforted. Somehow you feel life is okay. I want to keep going. I want to keep searching. I want to keep finding this knowledge. And ما فينا نحطه في المنطق. Somehow it escapes our attempts to logically understand it. So I don't know. It's tough, but I would say that those are some of the experience. The arts sometimes have a way of making us re-question how certain we are about things. And we have, the strength of science and everything is mantak, everything is perfect. And then we hear something and we're like, okay, we have to start over, which is good because this is how you can have those scientific paradigm shifts. Yeah, and this is how you can have a re-questioning of that framework. It's because something needs to, we need to find something that disturbs the uniformity of the system. Anyway, long story short, the art. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Actually, I find the arts is more than science. Okay, as you have mentioned, the Aristo, and it appears in as for my humble knowledge, reading the conversations of Platon and Aristo, while he just took the character of Aristo while he's re-triggering students. So he mainly proved or talked more about the difference between science and wisdom, while he talks about what is science. This complete question that I don't have a real answer for it. And now I find them more that the cutting edge about our life is actually arts. Like this is what specializes, what makes us humans. Actually, arts. It's not science, because you can create a machine that can do scientific stuff. So yeah, that's it about arts.
فهو لا عشان بس أكمل لك فهو سقراط بليتو أفلاطون ياخذ كلمات سقراط and هو this is كل الدايلوجز بتاعه معمول من كلام سقراط. وهو طالب أفلاطون كان أرسطو بيكتب في هالموضوع بتاع اختلاف الحكمة والعلم والintuitive intelligence in ethics الأخلاق. يعني دي أحاديث الأخلاق، يعني just to show you إنه في ارتباط في الموضوع ديت. وآخر نقطة زي ما قلت يعني there is a kind of science that is profoundly human. And I think this is when we start to think about the fundamental problems of nature, of life, of time, we are engaging with a profoundly human thing. But you're right, there's a way in which it can become, we can go away from this kind of fundamental questions and fundamental knowledge and abuse our, what is the nature of science? ما هي الجوهر بتاع العلم؟ أحس يعني.
Do you feel more optimistic or pessimistic?
Very good question. I hope I'm not a pessimist. I want to be an optimist. My father was a great optimist. He was a great optimist. I think this is, I'm optimistic about certain things. For example, I'm often very optimistic about الشباب المصري. I was telling people in this AUC event that I went to, the first part behind the universe وشفت هدول الشباب اللي عم بيحكوا في everything from the cosmology to computer sciences and a few other these disciplines that I found in القوة الإنسانية المصرية على نفس الطبقة زي الأمريكان. In terms of thinking, in terms of intellect, in terms of ambition, in terms of dedication to science and to knowledge. So from this part, I'm very optimistic. I do have some pessimisms, of course, about, some of the things that we were just mentioning before about, are we still respecting the true nature of what it is that we study? Because everything is subject to abuse. So are we abusing things? Maybe I might be a little bit more pessimistic in that. But I believe in a society that values knowledge and that values what we said before, and that it's still important that we are ethical, that we have a sense of certainty, that we have a sense that, that we want to have that good, fulfilled character, and that will ultimately bring these profound shifts in thinking that we're looking for. I have a great sense of optimism about Masreen and intelligence and all of this, but I hope so. I want to be an optimist. Yeah, that's my answer.
Do you feel that with regards to art,
Mm.
there is a progressive decline in, with respect to the public's acceptance to new ideas? Or there's an idea that we can just replace everything with AI, right? We can just make AI art that tries to mimic what humans have done before. So then the progress of art is meaningless,
Right.
From now on.
This is the big question. And you put your finger on the big question that I've been trying to avoid. Yeah, to be honest, this is the big question of our age. And I think the true wisdom to answer this question is still something that I have not achieved yet. There are people who are more wise than me that can give answers to this kind of question. I can tell you my opinion, but I wouldn't call it a kind of knowledge yet. I do know that Aristotle, for example, would say that, the mimicking of nature, تشابه الطبيعة, هذا هو الart. Art is even the word in Greek for art is techne, which we get some of the ideas of technique as a form of knowledge, and then therefore technology. But I think the question is, if technology is here and our hierarchy of knowledge, and let's say that real knowledge is here, it's above, can technology ever leave this place and get to this place? Or is this something only reserved to kind of human wisdom and a human knowledge? My sincerest hope is that that is the case. That there is something unique about humanity that can penetrate beyond technical knowledge and get into the real reality, the real, to recall the real, the capital R, or God, or something like this, to recall God into our, and insofar as human beings are able to do so. The fear of course, is that, there are commentators who say that, scientists and philosophers who say that, we are just sort of a simpler or more primitive intelligence than an artificial intelligence, right? We're just kind of a smaller, stupider being than that is. And that, AI will continue to progress and will be somehow left behind. This is like the scary theory, that we're all just going to be, second best. But I guess I would say it's not a knowledge, but my sincerest opinion or my sincerest hope would be that we do still contain the power of truth, real truth, that is the prerogative of art. That art, and now this is where Aristotle also says that art reveals the essential truths of life. This is what poetry is for, all of it. Yeah, and he said, actually, we were talking about this in the lecture, and though it's more scientific than history, because history gives you particular facts, but something like poetry, something like art, gives you something a'lami, universal. In that sense, I would say that perhaps this is something that a technique could not capture, is that the image of eternity, or the image of that reality, that's only reserved for human beings. But that's just my hope. Be optimistic. Yes, we can do it. Yes, yeah, we can, and we'll be great again, and it'll be awesome.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. What's your favorite food?
Yes, easy. Yes, let's get back to the real world. My favorite food. Real questions. I love a good plate of meat, a steak. That's يعني if I'm treating myself بروح عند واحد من هذول المكان في الزمالك, and Naomi or something. It's a nice place, restaurant. بيعطوني a big plate of steak كده. I don't know. يعني maybe I'm not so California. Maybe I should have been born in Texas. يعني I like steak. I like, that kind of food. Yeah, and good health. I like to go to the gym, and this is protein and stuff. So favorite food, steak. Definitely steak or burgers or something like this.
What's your favorite place you've been to
Yeah.
as a tourist or
As tourist بشكل عام.
أيوة.
حبيت اسبانيا كثير. I went once when I was young. I went to Spain, and I loved the culture there, especially Andalusia, because my mother is Syrian, so the Syrians have a long, strong history in southern Spain and Andalusia. I loved seeing الحمراء, seeing زهرة المدائن, مدينة زهرة في كيس غنيت فيروز, مدينة زهراء, and some of these other places. And عندهم الموسيقى الفلامنكية, which is very beautiful kind of music, very deep art, culture, history. I love Masr. I love Masr. I love Syria. I love these places. Siri, former, like I was listening to podcast about Miro.
So that was exactly actually about that Amigo on his music was kind of like they when we will try people loud. So when they pretend just and that's what actually yeah.
صح 100%. Exactly. They're called the Moriscos. هدول الموريسكوس كانوا مسلمين طبعًا بعد 1492 الإسبان basically قلعوهم للمسلمون من إسبانيا، وقالوا لهم يعني إذا حتضلوا هون ضروري تصيروا مسيحيين أو حنقتلكم. فاللي ضلوا مسلمين خبوا الإسلام بتاعهم بس ضلوا في وسط إسبانيا اسمهم الموريسكوس زي ما قلت وفي جمعوا مع اللي بيسموه الجيبسيز وكم different groups وعملوا هاي الموسيقى الفلامنكو يعني there's a fun fact يعني بيقولوا إنه كلمة فلامنكو جاي من كلمة العربية فلاح منكم. عشان دي كانت موسيقى الموريسكوز والشعب والموسيقى بتاعهم، فإنه أصلها شعبي جدًا بس طلعت صارت مستوى فن عالي، وهلّأ بيدرسوها في الجامعات، ويعني صارت يعني موسيقى مرتبة yes 100% 100% صح هذا الموضوع.
آآ هل في كتاب حسّيت إن هو غيّر منظورك للحياة؟
كتاب غيّرت منظور الحياة، يعني في التاريخ.
عامةً ممكن history ممكن فلسفة أيًا يكن.
عامل there's a philosopher now اسمه مارتن هايدجر كتير مشهور هذا مارتن هايدجر عمل كمان كتاب اسمه هو الزمن والوجود ونحن عبد الرحمن بدوي based his their thought on the single most important book that shaped Western philosophy is the physics of Aristotle. The single most important book that shaped the trajectory of all Western philosophy is the physics of Aristotle. فيعني who am I to disagree with him؟ خلاص knowing إنه the physics of Aristotle this is يعني الكتاب اللي تغيرت the entirety of Western philosophy.
حابب يبقى عندها أي أسئلة؟
Actually, I have a lot يعني.
طبعًا.
It's more like philosophical, so I don't think anyone would like it. Like people don't prefer philosophy this much, or
actually I would خلينا نفتح الموضوع عشانهم حسب يعني they will like it but they just need to be introduced to the topic يعني maybe we can do this يعني more for Zewail City يعني ندخل الفلسفة.
What is time؟
What is time? This is a big question يعني.
yeah, this was one of the questions. Some some will say you can find virtue beginning of money. Time not actually that's it's only by our
Socially constructive.
is it
اه أي this is يعني this is what they call like socially constructed theories of things يعني إنه ببلشوا من الإنسان ويطلعوا من الإنسان كل الأفكار. But this is hard to sustain عشان any look outside into physical reality tells us إنه there was the existence of time before human beings came along and that it exists independently from us. فهو it's interesting what we can learn إنه there is something about humanity that's necessary for the existence of time. Even أرسطو حيقول لك كده. فهو أرسطو بيستخدم الإكزامبل بتاع اللي ناموا في الكهف اللي يشوف في سورة الكهف يوم الجمعة في سورة الكهف. ف in سورة الكهف and in Aristotle's example طبعا they slept. فما حسبوا الزمن when they were sleeping and when they woke up. فالقرآن بيقول لنا إنه هذا 300 سنة زائد 9. So what it means is that it is in the perception of al-aql, of motion, of haraka, that we have a perceptual awareness of time. فهو mind gives the number to time. But طبعا انت قبل you go to sleep, you know when you wake up that time will have passed. فمش الموضوع انه time doesn't exist ما عنده وجود while you're sleeping. لا, it's just that you may not have a perceptual awareness of the existence of time while you're sleeping.
Like I would say that depend on mass. It's rather just it's like the time on it like spark falling in the forest.
Ah,
So would it actually
very good.
drop? Not
How that this is a later discussion in the history of philosophy. You have in two groups. You have empiricists and you have idealists. فواحد زي كانت بيقول لك is completely subjective ذاتها يعني في الذات إنه لا, if it doesn't occur in the mind, it doesn't exist. Time for him is only حاجة, something of the mind, the form of our inner intuitions. واحد empiricist زي Aristotle بيقول لك طبعا it fell in the tree and it made a force and it made a sound and it did this and it did this. There's a big distinction from ancient philosophy to enlightenment philosophy. Thinkers like Descartes, Hume, Berkeley, Kant, كلهم these will be grouped into an old idealist or subjective category who believe that the existence of things only exists insofar as they exist in the mind. اللي قبل ancients بيقولوا لك لا, things have existence in the real world, natural existence. So طبعا a scientist would be much more inclined to treat it like the ancients would treat it. It's like, yes, of course, the motion of planets, the motions of stars happen regardless if we're aware of them or not. But the degree to which that's the case, maybe what we want to understand, how much of our soul is necessary in order to understand the problem. Aristotle will say, yes, just insofar as we need to number things, we need our soul. We need our soul to enumerate. Because who his definition of time for Aristotle is the number, raqam, of motions, the number of motions with relation to before and after. You need the mind just for the number part. الموtion بتصير في الطبيعة. The relation بتصير في الطبيعة, and the before and after بتصير في المكان في الطبيعة. What you need the mind for is simply to count numbers, because you need it to enumerate quantity, which quantity يعني واحد من the philosophical categories اللي Aristotle بيعطينا الكمية. طبعا تعلموا even in computer science difference between كمية وكيفية وكل الكلام ده.
نعم.
On that note, how do you think science or philosophy impact each other?
Science and philosophy are science and philosophy speak the same language in the basic questions.
Two sides of the same coin, in a sense.
Two sides of the same coin. فهو to understand something like femtochemistry, ناخذ مثال والد الله يرحمه. What does it say? Femtochemistry tells us in Aristotle's definition of time, the number of motions with relation to before and after. الفمتوثانية إيه؟ femtothania, in the space of the chemical events, we witness the transition of reactants to products in the before, the during, and the after stage. We witness motion along the magnitude. Along the magnitude, we witness changes to the event of the chemical reaction in the change of the bonds, according to a specific time scale. So this is the different intervals of time, which is what? A millionth of a billionth of a second. Right? This is our time scale where we witness this. Okay? Aristotle gives us the portrait of thinking of this way of time, in which we isolate it as a function of space that we can witness. Personally, understanding Aristotle gave me a great understanding of my father's work, because it put things in the kinds of terminologies that get into what the nature of reality is, the real scientific reality. بحس إنه it investigates problems in a kind of language that will help to frame these ideas correctly. تعطيله the right تصوره في طريقة صح. And then you can also find, the importance of philosophy too is because it can also ask you to question the frameworks that you're given. فهو كوبرنيكوس بيغير من طالمي وأينشتاين بيغير من نيوتن عشان هو they were able to sit there and question the things that were given to them as the nature of reality, of facts. Here are the facts. Ma, بس نحن we said in the beginning, facts is not the essential truths of life. Facts deals with the particular things اللي قدامنا هلا في التاريخ. The essential truths of life require us to question the frameworks. And philosophers were doing that since the BC times. It gives us a frame of reference for understanding changes in scientific history as well. That it's like we're trying to deal with one or two essential truths and we're kind of going back and forth between them. So I think this is, and just to say how we started the whole conversation, philosophy and theology by extension, the study of God, تعليم عن ربنا, for a philosopher. Newton, for example, was using science to strengthen his faith and his certainty in God. فالموضوع إنه I started this entire thing by saying I'm a man of God who's passionate about knowledge. Because ilm and scientific and philosophical knowledge, you now as a scientist have access to the thinking of someone like Isaac Newton, to Aristotle, the biggest figures in history. You can directly communicate with them on a whole other level. It's just something they were very passionate about. شغفهم هن. To answer your question, I think that philosophy is the language of science that connects you also with reality. So you have science as a technical knowledge, as a philosophical knowledge. Once it becomes philosophy, it can connect you with a whole other set of truths and make your science a kind of service to a greater cause, I think.
Okay. What's a memory that makes you happy?
A memory that makes me happy. Oh. Happiness, the
We can talk about happiness. Definition later, but
yeah, definitely. Definitely thinking about my father sometimes make me very happy. Whenever I think of him saying حاجة, like, yeah, ما انت شبشب ما طفيت الضوء, it's very Egyptian things that he says to me, and it makes me very happy. I laugh about this a lot because he was very, I think happiness, to say it this way, it comes from the simple things. It doesn't, when your father is telling his son, laughing with him and poking fun at him. I think and he breaks the seriousness of life, and it tells you that these are where the happy things are. A son and a father, laughing about mom and kiddo. So I definitely these are happy memories.
how would you define happiness?
Yeah, this is a tough question. So there's a distinction. هو اللغة العربية بحس has a way of defining these things in a more profound way than English language does. And I'm an English speaker, مش إنه عم being زكي, بس we have in our tradition the distinction between الفرح والسعادة. فالفرح, these are moments, happy memory. زي ما قلت, something to kind of break the seriousness of things. But I think السعادة, for example, is something that comes through what Aristotle would say is the acquisition of real goods, which is not always farah, like we were saying, because farah is just kind of following your impulses all the time. يعني, oh, I want ice cream, and that makes me happy. And I want this, and this makes me happy. But this is not going to be real long-term happiness. You know, if you eat too much ice cream, of course, you become overweight, and you have problems in your health, and your heart starts to hurt. And, you know, you want a cigarette, you think it's going to make you happy, okay, in 5 minutes, but then you lead to long-term health problems and so on and so forth. You know, all the doctors tell us it's the case. For me, Saada is the really doing the real goods, you know, like we mentioned some of them: prayer, zakah, exercise, study, some music. You know, Farabi, you know, he would argue that to get to the Saada music, it has to be the right kind of music, which I don't know, يعني 100% what he meant. يعني maybe I'm sure he would be happy with Kulthum and some of these people. يعني, but the idea is that you have to listen to music that will bring out the best in your character, kind of music that will make you ethical and so on and so forth. يعني بس عشان أجاوب سؤالك, I think there's a difference between farah and sa'ada, and I would define real happiness as sa'ada, which is the ethical component of it. إلي لا, it was what عملنا geometry مع بعض, قعدني برا وفرجاني البايثاغوريان theorem. كنت in 9th grade وعملني a squared times plus b squared c squared, كل الكلام ده. 3, 4, 5 triangles and all of these, and how that these fall into different nisib and relationships with one another. So you can multiply it by any factor. فعملنا some geometry together. Oh, geometry is very interesting عشان geometry بيبلش من مبادئ that you cannot question. Certain rules and certain theorems, you just sort of put them there, and then you build a whole science from it. Aristotle, and Aristotle again, and so he's trying to build all of his science. He'll say, okay, هدول or Farabi, هدول المبادئ الأولى, which are axioms like geometry, and then حنبني العلم بتاعها. But to answer your question, he did, and he helped me in 5th grade. We did the rocket ship مع بعض. You know, this, عشان science project عملنا rocket ship مع بعض وبعتنا إلى آخر إلى السماء يعني. فلا الحمد لله يعني we got to do some things, but no, not chemistry. He didn't teach me chemistry.
What are your current goals?
My current goal, so finishing my doctorate. I'm doing my doctorate now. So طبعا finishing my doctorate is the number one goal. I have a couple of conferences that I'm doing now. I'm going to be going to UCLA in a week, and then going to Oxford, and then I'll be coming back here to Egypt to keep studying and keep researching. But these are the short-term goals. Long-term goals, I would love to, continue to push forward this kind of scientific. I would love to write some books about, the philosophy of Ahmed Zewail, the science of music, the philosophy of music, and then maybe continue to bring science and scientific knowledge into philosophy, because I'm not a real scientist, like as I dabble best way. But bring this philosophical knowledge, knowledge, music, all of this stuff to the public, inshallah, in some way, shape, or form. So maybe a series of something of some sort of other. But I think my goal now is, like I said, for the immediate future, is just to get a really good, solid doctoral thesis done, and then maybe teach and write books. This is what I'm interested.
I think our talk has gone on too long.
لا أبدا it was
The discussion could go on forever, بس يعني for the sake of time and for your time, it's been an honor to talk to you.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.